Hello and blessings, beautiful souls. So today I would like to offer you some support information regarding the 9-day sacrifice to Odin. I have been observing across platforms some of the more popular questions that are at this moment being put forth, and some of these contain the following expressions of why Odin? Who is Odin? What kind of sacrifice would be best? Is there more information that I could give? And so firstly, I would also like to say that I am in the process of editing quite a bit of information to accompany a video that focuses specifically on sacrifices, ideas for sacrifices, my own personal experiences, and the concepts and situations behind this process. And so that video will be uploading on Wednesday. Today what I would like to talk about is why Odin? Who is Odin? What's the reason for working with Odin? And many other Odin-inspired questions. When I first began my exploration of Odin, there was no internet and there was no fast information network. And this was something that now retrospectively could be seen as a hindrance. However, back then, when I had no idea of the internet, when I had no idea of mobile phones and the method in which we could obtain information on such a rapid rate, or in such a rapid rate, I just did what everybody else did when they wanted to acquire information, and that was I did the work. I asked my father to take me to the library, and I would there explore the texts that were available in two of our local libraries. My father, being an avid reader, had no issues whatsoever with me going to the library, but he was a shift worker growing up, and so my time at the library was limited and had to be coordinated with his availability, and so I would make it to the library maybe once a week. And that's where I began to understand how much information there is on ancient texts and the deities and the heroes and the heroines and the spirits and the wild and magical creatures that populate the pages of ancient literature, mythology, anthropology, and world history. There is a lot. Now, if you narrow that down to Odin and perhaps even more broadly to the Norse pantheon, then what you will describe, or what you will find, I should say, not describe, but what you will find is the same thing as you will find during your exploration of any other pantheon. And that is that the information that is available to us for us to explore said pantheon, culture, deity, etc., is subjective. And the reason I say this is because there are a multitude of translations on the Norse Eddas, the Havamal, and of course there are a multitude of academic opinion, historical opinion, and these are all of course marred by one person's perspective. And this person's perspective is now put forth in the world, and we regard it as somewhat fact. However, I encourage you to look discerningly at this information. The study of Norse mythology and the study of Odin particularly is extensive, and the information is, it's incredible, the amount of information that is out there. But it is all, again, subjective. Now, you can do one of two things here. You can do your research, of course, and find a translation and find a retelling or a perspective that you most closely resonate with and enjoy that. Or you can do what every other pioneer in his field has done, and that is you can make up your own opinion in accordance with what you feel on both an intellectual and a spiritual level. Truth has a resounding vibration, and sometimes we can't explain why we believe in something, but we still believe in it very deeply. And it is precisely this level of belief that I encourage within you. Being very conscious of where you place your faith and your belief is an integral part of witchcraft. A witch will do her or his research extensively and then determine for themselves, under no influence, what feels truthful, what feels correct. It's an empowered manner in which to harvest wisdom. And so I encourage you to do your exploration, of course. But seeing as we are now getting very close to the cross quarter of Samhain and Beltane, what we have here is an opportunity to explore who Odin was and what he stood for and what he had to offer a little closely. Now, I do not want to influence you. One of the things that I look back on very fondly now is that when I was doing my exploration of ancient text and ancient deities and so on, at that library situation that I was explaining to you, then I was able to do that in my own way and uncover the truth for myself in a very natural and organic fashion. It was a patient and respectful process, and I wish the same for you, that patient and respectful process. So, with that said, I still feel as though it would be doing you a disservice if I didn't share a few thoughts and opinions on Odin with you, considering how close we are to the cross quarter and how soon we will be beginning this sacrifice. And so, I would like to lead you through a very short path working. So if you wouldn't mind, please, getting yourself comfy and cozy and making sure that your limbs are not crossed as to impede the flow of energy through your body. And take a deep breath. Take 3, why not? I want you to ground and to center. I want you to begin breathing deeply. Inhale, belly rise. Exhale, belly fall. Breathe deeply. Close your eyes and continue to breathe in this rhythmic fashion. Feel the presence of your extremities, your toes, your arms, your legs, your shoulders. You might notice a little discomfort or a little tightness, in which case now would be the time to move, to work it, to wiggle, to adjust accordingly. Continue to breathe deeply. And when you are ready, I encourage you to draw your attention to where your third eye exists. This is a place just above your brow bone. I would like for you to focus your energy on that third eye. It may help to actually trigger awareness by just gently touching your third eye a couple of times, very, very gently, just giving it a little tap. For some, this may cause a slight headache experience, where for others it might just cause a tingling sensation, and for others it might just serve to bring awareness to that space. But I encourage you to be very light of touch. You may also enjoy potentially working with a crystal here. And so it is not too late to shift focus, to pause, to go and grab a crystal, to ground and center again, and to continue on. I highly recommend psychic stones like labradorite or cavensite. I recommend iolite and amethyst, and even a certain amount of lapis. Or there are many others. There are many others. Blue kyanite, for instance. Beautiful, beautiful. So go with what feels right. You can even work with your Coven crystal if you choose. And now that you have drawn your attention to your third eye, I ask you to visualize yourself blinking said third eye and see as the image clears. Now, oftentimes when we awake in the morning, we have to blink our eyes a couple of times if we get a little cloudy eye. Business going on, we tend to sort of blink our eyes and just clear that line of sight, bring clarity to the eyes once more. And that is exactly what you are going to be doing here. You're going to be blinking your magnificent third eye. And your third eye might look rather interesting to you. It will have a look, it will have an aesthetic that is totally unique to you. And so I ask that you connect with this and continue to blink until you have a clear image. And what I would like for you to visualize is a woodland clearing just on twilight. In the not too distant way ahead, there is a very, very large tree trunk. And it is as big as a table, and you can see from a distance that there are some implements on top of said tree trunk. And so your curiosity is piqued. You feel the grass. It's almost moist, but not quite. It's just cooling down now that the sun has begun to set. There is enough light left in the sky for you to be able to navigate your way through this expanse with ease and with a sense of comfort. However, the distant glimmer of the first few stars appearing in that monochromatic sky are starting to peer through the inky blue. You hear birds, you hear creatures, all in the distance, nothing menacing. You are perfectly comforted. And as you approach your tree trunk, the one that caused you to become so curious, you notice that there are two very intriguing items placed upon it. One is a wooden bowl intricately carved with symbols, and it contains an inky dark water. You're not quite certain if the inkiness of the water is a result of a product actually being put in the water, or if it's just the lack of light. And so all you can see is the still surface of the water and your reflection upon it. The second item that you see is a very large, flat, polished, black stone. It is so well polished it appears to be a black mirror. Again, your reflection is apparent. As you gaze in to these items, looking curiously at them, you see yourself and you see your magnificent third eye glowing. You marvel at it. You look back and forth from one item to another until a choice is made. Which one will you work with? It is now that I encourage you to take a deep breath. Breathe in the jasmine, breathe in the fresh air, feel the breeze on your face. And so, as you make your choice. You place your hands at either side of your chosen instrument. The polished black mirror is as large as a dinner plate. The bowl of water is as large as a fruit bowl. They are very similar in their diameters, but one is earth and one is water. And so, with your choice made, I now ask you to peer deeply into your chosen instrument. At first, you will of course see your own reflection. You will see yourself in this journey space. You may look very different. You may look curious. You may see your third eye in a manner that is truly remarkable. And as you gaze at yourself and the reflection, your eyes begin to soften. You feel a sense of warmth run through you, comforting you and warming you. You feel perfectly serene, grounded, centered, comforted. And as this feeling naturally washes over you, the deliciousness of it allows you to completely relax. And as you do, the reflection of you begins to fade, naturally dissipating, and another appears. It's not yet visible. Not yet. It's moving, this image, slowly, as though it's somehow getting into focus. And as it is doing this, I want you to ask out loud or to yourself, who is Odin? The sound or the presence of your word seems to clear the image significantly. And so, his face, his likeness, his symbols, they appear before you. It is important now to not second guess yourself. It is important now not to force the image. It is important to accept the information as it appears before you. There is no guilt, no shame, no silliness to be faced with a popular culture image. In fact, it would be very natural. There is also no need for concern if a complete anthropomorphized image does not appear before you, and instead what you have is symbolism, shadow, sound, smell, or taste. You are encouraged to use all of your senses. I want you to drink in this moment, accepting the information as it appears. Once again, I encourage you to ask, who is Odin? Allow him to guide you. Allow him to show you. Breathe deeply. Feel the purpose. Feel your blood singing with the idea of truth and magic. Take your time here. There may be a lot to be seen or hardly anything. There is no right, no wrong, no more, no less. It is as it is. When you are ready, I ask you to thank the mirror. Whether you're using the stone or the water, you have been empowered by its reflective surface. I encourage you to pay your respects to earth or to water, depending on which tool you chose to use. When you are ready, I ask that you take a few lazy steps back. Backwards you move, placing the natural divination altar that you just journeyed to at a distance. And when you are ready, I encourage you to take that deep breath once more, to connect with that third eye and watch as it closes, to feel the extremities of your body, to return your attention to the room. You may now open your eyes. How did you go? I hope well. I was cheering you on the whole way. Please know this. Now would be a great time to grab your Coven journal and write a little bit about your experiences. I hope that you were able to obtain that which you needed to quench your thirst for knowledge and your curiosity up until this point. Remember, there is more to come. It's an exciting experience. I highly recommend that you ground and center once again. And I would recommend placing a little more effort into this. It is one thing to journey, but it is quite another to journey and then divine. And so, you have used a great deal of your psychic energy, and as such will now require a good deal of grounding, a good deal of centering. Food is perhaps your best medicine right now. So have a snack on something, bring your attention back to the now, re-foster mindfulness, feel your presence solidly in the mundane world. And so, how was Odin to you? What did he say, if he said anything at all? What information did he share about himself to you? You might have obtained a great deal from this experience, and yet you might have obtained nothing. And if that's the case, there is absolutely no reason why you cannot revisit this very short path working and reconnect until you do get what you need. This space, this place, and this technique is always available to you. And so now that you have hopefully a little better idea on who Odin is, then let me tell you who he is to me. The image that I have of Odin is not one of popular culture. It is an image that comes to me very naturally when I journey. I shan't describe this image as I do not wish to influence you. It is very important that I do not influence you. I have done this journey with so many in the past, and I know that everybody's image of Odin is unique. Sometimes it is the same, and we can really get excited about that, but most often than not, it is different. The way in which Odin appears to me will not always be the same way that he will appear to you. There is medicine in that. But for me, Odin holds a very unique and rather ambiguous energy. I recall once believing that Odin was as much female as he was male. Quite gender neutral, really. I recall him as the hanged man in the tarot, and the fool in the tarot, and the hermit in the tarot. I have seen him as the great wanderer, as a ruler, and as an individual who struggled to understand his purpose and his truth. For those who are wondering why Odin, it is because he holds a great deal of wisdom to offer about the aspects and the motivating factors behind sacrifice. When we study his narrative carefully, we begin to understand a fundamental truth, and that is that his sacrifice was all about him. He sacrificed to himself. It's a mark of strength, of honor, and of deep wisdom. Every day, adults and children the world over will make a sacrifice. Some will be obvious and some not so. Nevertheless, there are people every day making sacrifices. Some make sacrifices for others and for the greater good, and others make sacrifices for a better life for themselves. And there is no right and no wrong here. It just is. But one thing you can be quite certain of is that whenever we make these sacrifices in life, from those sacrifices comes a deeper understanding of ourselves, of the people around us, and of our own shape of life. It's a very curious thing. It's very revealing in its own way. And so Odin sacrificed himself for 9 days and 9 nights, hanging from the Yisrael tree of Norse mythology. It stands in the middle of the Norse cosmos, connecting to the 9 worlds of the Nordic pantheon. And from that tree, he remained injured by spear. He did not eat, he did not drink. And that was when the wisdom of the runes came to him. And he drank in that wisdom, taking them into himself. And that wisdom of the runes forms such an integral story the shaping of a narrative. Runes were both language and magical spiritual systems, and within them a great deal of wisdom can be found. And it was Odin who stands at the threshold of the runes, gifting that wisdom to anyone who is willing to open their heart, their mind, to the exploration of that very unique system. And while there are many other deities out there that are associated with wisdom, cross pantheons, Odin is one of the most accessible deities due to the sheer volume of information available on him. This makes things easy. Not super easy, but easier. If you have ever had to study a deity that had next to no story written about them, you will know just how difficult or challenging it can be. And yet with Odin, and indeed most of the Norse pantheon, what you will find is an incredible body of information. And that body of information has been studied and scrutinized individually, spiritually, or on a scholastic or academic level for a very long time. And I've previously said this, but there is so much information there. And there is a beautiful legacy to be found there as well. And so, why Odin? Well, why not? Why not Odin? It is important to know that Odin will not be the only deity that we explore through Coven. We will explore many, many deities. And you may like to decide over time what deity means to you. Is deity anthropomorphized? Is it an individual, anthropomorphized energy? Is it an archetypal energy, a resonance, a feeling, a vibe? Or is it something far more omnipotent? Figuring that out early is handy, to say the least. Now, when I really answer the question, why Odin, I cannot give you a conclusive reason, nor should I have to give you a conclusive reason. The question of why is not as important as how and who. And so, I encourage you to connect with Odin in your own way. This does not mean you need to build an altar. Of course, if you want to, then by all means, go forth. It does not mean that you need to consider him to be your patron deity, or add him to your wheel, or anything else for that matter. This is one single experience to allow you to connect with an energy that is unlike any other, and that holds a resonance and a profound wisdom that can assist you to understand your own inner wisdom. To him I ask that you give a certain level of respect. and you will get a certain level of respect in return. What you put into this experience, you will get out of this experience. So the more effort you are prepared to invest, the more reward you will gain as a result. It is a beautiful thing to journey with a deity. And in this particular challenge, this particular 9-day sacrifice, Odin is not your governor. He will not stand at the threshold dictating to you how you should or should not be. He will be the great caster of runes. And so, during your time within this 9-day sacrifice, I ask you to open up your heart, your mind, your inner sight, connecting deeply with your inner priestess or your inner priest, and become the omen reader. It is said that the runes will manifest in your life in one way or another. And so I encourage you to become ultra perceptive during this time. I cannot tell you how many times I wandered down the street and saw twigs shaped like runes, or symbols shaped like runes, or went to my daughter's and son's school cultural day only to see the runes written on a blackboard. It was incredible. So remain perceptive. And the runes that do appear to you, they are your runes to study. If you do not own a rune set, that is not at all important. What is important is to receive the runes as they come to you. You may want to pull out 3 runes from a rune set. You may want to write runes on a piece of paper if you do not have physical runes, and jumble them up and then pull out a couple. You may want to go out in nature, go out into an environment that is familiar to you, and see if you can find your own 3 runes to study. Spend 3 days at a time with these runes. Understand their medicine. They are in turn the great teacher that you have been waiting for. They will govern you. Odin will help to bring them to you, and the runes will do the rest. You may want to work with the runes in a magical sense. You may want to carve them into candles. You may want to turn them into bind runes. You may want to turn them into sigils. You may want to intone them. You may want to work with the concept of Gulda. You may want to path work or meditate on these runes. Whatever it is that you choose to do is completely up to you. You are to self-govern in this process. What feels right is the right way for you. And so I leave a lot in your own hands. And I want you to take this opportunity completely. It's 9 days. 9 days of self-discovery. 9 days of immersive wisdom. 9 days of, oh my gosh, what a coincidence. Is that a synchronicity? I don't get it. What? What is this? How do I pronounce it? All these questions are going to come up, and I just want you to sweep them aside. And I want you to understand one important thing is feel your way through this process. This is not an intellectual experience, it is a spiritual experience. It's not a physical vacation, it's an odyssey. And I want you to be able to connect with the idea of an odyssey. So this 9 days, consider it to be a 9-day odyssey. A soulful odyssey. for you and you alone. And by the end of it will emerge a wonderful, unique wisdom for you to work with until your next rotation. I do this once a year and I focused on the wisdom that comes about, and I know that it serves me well. It's quite challenging to hold on to that wisdom, which is why it's important to journal through the process. And so next year, when we do this again, your sacrifice will be different, your runes will be different, and your wisdom received will be different. But your experience will grow. And so you will have the experience of this year's 9-day sacrifice to propel you forth. And that is pretty wonderful. Being that this is probably my, I've lost count. I've done this a number of times, and I remember how timid I was beginning. I was still pretty, intense about it, yes, but I was quite timid anyway. I didn't know how I was going to go about it. I didn't know what kind of language to use. I didn't know how to do it. I just didn't know. And I just did it anyway. And then I learnt how I was going to do it the next time, and then I learnt more the second time, for the third time, and so on. And so you're cultivating a knowledge not just for the journey and the process, but you're cultivating a deeper wisdom in the overall for you personally. When the runes appear to you in a particular way, it will be very, very destined. And so working with those 3 runes, or 5 runes, or 1 rune, it doesn't really matter. I recommend 3, but I'm recommending it. I'm not stating that is what you need to do. That is how it needs to be. I want your inner compass to guide you. So there you go. I sincerely hope that you have enjoyed this voice recording. Believe it or not, it was the second time I had to record it. I'd be lying if I said that I didn't share a frustrated tear for the fact that I lost the first one, but I thought, oh well, was not meant to be. Let's see how we go with this one. And there you have it, beautiful soul. If you have any questions, please do not hesitate to ask. Much love, many blessings.